Hi. My name is Urshad Mizga. Today I am going to show you that how you can create this awesome music player inside Adobe Photoshop CC 2020. So let's begin. First go to File and choose New Document. Set the width and height to 1000 pixels and resolution to 300. Now double-click on the layer to rename it. Type BG and hit OK. Double-click on the layer again and click on Gradient Overlay. Click on the gradient bar and select the gradient. I have already prepared a gradient for the sake of this tutorial. Double-click on the arrow to open the color picker and type this number. Now do same thing here and click OK. Set the angle to 90 degrees and click on OK. Lock this layer. Now go to the Shape panel and select the Rectangle tool. Click once and set the width to 600 pixels and height to 350 pixels. Now select the Move tool and hit Ctrl A on keyboard and align its center. Rename this layer to Back Rectangle. Duplicate this layer and name this Front Rectangle. Double-click on the thumbnail and select different color. Now hit Ctrl T on keyboard to activate the transformation, and change the height. You can go to Properties panel and type 275 in height. Select the back rectangle layer and go to the Direct Selection tool. Select all four corners and go to the Properties and type 45 in the Corners panel. You can see the result. Now select the front rectangle and go to Properties panel and type 45 again in the corners, but this time uncheck the link and set the upper corners to 0. Now it is time to apply the effects. I have already prepared the effects for the sake of time. I will apply the effect. And then double-click on the layer to open Layer Styles. Copy these settings. Click on Bevel and Emboss and set the style to Inner Bevel, the technique to Smooth, depth to 136, direction to Down, size to 16, soften to 15, angle to 90, altitude to 30, check the global light on, the highlight mode to normal and the color to 939482 and opacity to 100%, then on the shadow mode set it on multiply and the color to black and opacity to 0%. OK. Now click on Gradient Overlay and set the first color to F1 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 and the second color to E6 E7 F0. Set the scale to 88 and angle to 90, style to linear and opacity to 100%. Check dither on and click OK. Now select the back rectangle and copy the layer styles from front rectangle. Double-click on this layer and uncheck the Bevel and Emboss. Now adjust the gradient to make it darker from the front layer. OK. Now we need to make this shadow over here. Make new layer and name it shadow. Then select the elliptical marquee tool and make a selection like this. Make sure background color is black and then hit Ctrl backspace key on keyboard to fill the selection with black color. Now drag the layer below the front rectangle. Adjust it a bit. And then go to the filter and blur, then choose Gaussian blur. Set the blur amount to 5 pixels. Decrease the opacity to 30%. OK. Now we need make the disk. First group these layers and name it body. Then go to the ellipse tool and click the make 360 by 360 circle. Change the color and then align its center. Select the layer, then hold down the Shift key to make a group from this layer. Rename this layer to disk. Now drag this layer below to the front layer in body group folder. Adjust it a bit. Then double-click on the layer to open Layer Styles panel. Select the gradient overlay. I have already made the gradient, so follow these settings. Set first color to this, second color to this and the third color to this. OK, set the style to angle and angle to 54. OK. Click on stroke, set the size to 4 and position to outside. Blend mode to normal, opacity 100%. And the fill type to gradient and gradient to linear. Click on gradient bar and the double click on pointer to sample the color from the disk. Do same thing on the other pointer. Set the angle to 180 degrees. OK. Rename the layer to disk main. And the duplicate the layer. Name this lines. Clear its layer styles. Hit Ctrl T on keyboard and make it small a bit. While selecting the layer, go to the shapes and choose the fill color to none and the stroke to black. Set the radius to 3 pixels. Decrease the opacity to 25%. Duplicate this layer. And press Ctrl T to transform it. And hold Alt and drag it to make it smaller. Now adjust TH gradient of the disk main layer and set gradient overlay angle to 90 degrees. We need to make this shape here. Duplicate the disk main layer and rename it to Inner Circle. Clear the layer styles and move it above all layers in that group. Scale it down. Now it is time to make this shape. Duplicate the inner circle and name this yellow circle. Change the color. Scale it a bit. Apply the gradient overlay effect. I have already made this gradient, so follow along and copy the settings. By the way, you can click anywhere to make more points. Set the style to angle. And angle to 140 degrees. OK. Duplicate the yellow layer. Rename it to center and clear the layer styles. Make it smaller and apply the gradient overlay by double-clicking on the layer. Select these settings. OK. Duplicate the center layer and rename it to Dead Center. Clear the layer styles. And click on the thumbnail while holding Ctrl key on keyboard to make a selection out of it. Now hide this layer and select the group. Click on Layer Mask option to apply the mask. Now go to the Properties panel and select the invert. Wow! You have successfully cut out the hole. Ha 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 ha. Now select whole group and position it. I forgot to apply inner shadow on this shape. So select the inner circle layer and apply the inner shadow with these settings. OK. Fantastic, lovely, love you. Now to make this smiling face-like timeline. All you need to do is make another group and name this timeline. OK. Then make a circle with 480 by 480 pixels. OK, change the color and align its center. Now go to the shapes and uncheck the fill color and apply stroke color on it. Set the radius to 24 pixels. Adjust its position. To make it smiling, select the rectangular marquee tool and make a selection like this. Apply the mask and click on Invert button. Now apply the gradient and use following settings. Now to make this bevel effect. Duplicate this layer and name it bevel. Drag it below the ellipse layer. And then I will apply the layer style which I have already prepared. You can follow the settings. Double-click on the layer to see the settings. Apply bevel and emboss and set the style to emboss, technique to smooth, depth to 105, direction to down, size to 49, soften to 16, angle to 74, altitude to 53, highlight mode to normal and color to white and then opacity to 100%. And for the shadow mode set it to multiply and the color to 1155 AF and opacity to 54. OK. Now to make these shadows, make a rectangle. Adjust it a bit. effect and then double-click on Layer Thumbnail. Choose the color to EFEFF1. To make the shadows, make a new layer and name this shadows. And then drag it below the rectangle layer. With the help of rectangular marquee to make a selection like this. And then set the background color to black and fill it with black color by pressing Ctrl backspace key on the keyboard. Now apply the Gaussian blur effect and set the radius to 5 pixels. Copy the layer. I am using keyboard shortcut. Hold down the Alt key and then drag it to another side. OK. Make another circle and apply the drop shadow effect. Make another circle and position its center. Apply the layer styles. I have already prepared the one. I will apply this. You can follow the settings. Double-click on the layer and apply these settings. Make another rectangle. Duplicate this and select them both and align them center. Now go to the Shapes tool and select the Custom Shape tool. If you are not able to find all these shapes here, you can click on this little setting icon and there you will find Append all option. So select this triangle shape. And make a shape out of it. Then make another rectangle. Position it on top of this rectangle layer. Group the and rotate it to 90 degrees. Position it. Duplicate the group by pressing Alt and drag it to the left side. Flip this horizontal and position it. Double-click on the group and apply the color. Now copy the same effect and paste it on the other one. I will drag the text and place it on this one, because this tutorial is going long. Now to apply the shadow. Duplicate the back rectangle and name it shadow. Drag it down and clear its layer styles. Now apply the black color. Move it down a bit by pressing down arrow key on the keyboard. Transform it a bit. And then apply Gaussian blur effect. Set the radius to 10 pixels. OK. Now decrease the opacity to 70%. OK, you have finished this. If you like it, then subscribe and hit the bell icon. And also like the video. See you next time. Bye.